per statute. And the commissioners do have that option per statute, but since it's an option, that's a decision. That's why we wanted to have the meeting and have that decision made in an open public meeting in an attempt to remedy that in the event that that is an OPMA violation.
So our main concern was that it occurred with all three, potentially just two and potentially all three commissioners in the room. Because there were multiple commissioners present, our concern was that a quorum was present, essentially. So, like I said, in abundance of caution, we wanted to call this meeting and see if we can have the conversation on the or in an open meeting. So, as I understood it, the issue was attorneys being provided for the criminal investigation that's occurring for the audio security issue. And so in talking with Jen, the commissioners have the option of, sorry, let me rephrase that. When there's a criminal matter done by an employee, a criminal matter is not considered to be in the course of somebody's employees. And it is not, and the county would not be able to provide an attorney for them on their behalf. The question that is being investigated is whether there was criminal conduct. And so Jen's recommendation is for the Board of County Commissioners to wait to consider whether to pay for the defense of those or attorneys for those accusations. Again, because going back to the county would not be able to pay for the defense of a criminal conduct. That would be using public funds for that purpose. And that's Jen's understanding is that that's just not allowed. So again, going back to how the commissioners want to proceed with this would be up to them. If they want to entertain the option of after the fact, after an investigation has been concluded and a determination of whether there was criminal conduct that occurred or not. And then if there was no criminal conduct, then the commissioners would have the potential option of then covering any criminal defense or investigation defense expenditures that the employees may have had. So that is the recommended procedure if the commissioners would be entertaining the possibility of covering for the defense. Any questions up to this point?
Yeah, I guess what triggered this is your office told an employee that they would need to hire their own attorney or provide their own legal. So I guess that's what triggered it. And I said, as long as they're working within the scope of the law, if they're working outside of the scope of the law, there would not be coverage. So Tom was there, he could validate that. But it's just kind of a conversation that triggered because he was told, Carter, that he would need to get his own attorney.
And that is correct. It's a personal It is a personal matter, so until an investigation has been concluded and there's been a determination that that criminal conduct has been or has not been, um, then they would need to get their own attorney. That is correct.
Okay, so I think what we need to do is write a policy stating this, because I think every employee in the county needs to know that if they're working for the county and they make a decision for the county, they're liable and need to personally, I mean, there's a possibility they could be working outside of the scope of their job and be forced to provide their own attorney.
Again, the issue is whether it was a criminal matter. It's not just so, for example, let's take it as a civil issue, or a yeah, let's just take a civil issue. If it was just purely a civil question, then that would not trigger this issue of needing to get a personal attorney. However, because there's a criminal investigation, that's where the difference is coming in. Does that make sense?
And for the record, given everything that we're talking about, the county is not of the position from the legal department that anyone has in fact committed a crime. I know that we're talking about that, and I just want to make that abundantly clear.
Thank you.
And that is correct. Again, the criminal investigation was done in an abundance of caution. It was requested in an abundance of caution.
I think Tom wants to say something.
Well, I just, to kind of what I feel like is defend Cindy a little bit, I don't believe any kind of decision was made. We had a dynamic situation that if I were to go into the details, I would ask for an executive session because it speaks to a personnel matter. And it was a dynamic situation that you don't schedule a meeting. It was something that had to be dealt with right there on the spot. And it was.
So the concern was that there was multiple commissioners in the same room.
Rebecca,
If you would have wanted to have a private conversation with Cindy, then you would need to have stepped out of the room with Cindy. But since there was multiple commissioners in the room, when you have multiple commissioners, you have a quorum.
Understood.
Rebecca, it sounds like perhaps Tom's of the impression that we're not fully understanding the
That's
situation.
okay. I think we can just move on.
Okay, because if the facts are different,
I believe they are.
then I certainly want to know if I'm misunderstanding and Rebecca's misunderstanding. I think Rebecca does too.
I was not in the room, so there's one fact for you.
And I would not want to do it outside of an executive session.
Okay, Rebecca, do you have an objection to that conversation happening in an executive session? It sounds like from Tom's.
Yes, unless it falls within one of the exceptions, you can't just go into an executive session. It has to be within one of the exceptions.
Tom thinks
It's a
that there is an
personnel matter.
exception, is my understanding. Is that right, Tom?
It is a personnel matter. I don't have them memorized. I don't remember which.
You want evaluation?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, there's a very specific procedure for a personnel evaluation. Again, you need to, and I need to hold on.
I understand, Rebecca. I understand where you're sitting. I understand where you're coming from. I think we should just move on. But I am definitely of the opinion that yes, there were two commissioners in here. A conversation happened. Yes, by OPMA, that is action, but it wasn't a decision. It wasn't.
Yeah, there was no.
It wasn't
decisions made in
it
that
wasn't direction. It was
conversation.
talking about historically things that had happened in the past. So.
Well, I can tell you, I certainly
Again,
was there, and Rebecca certainly was not there. The
understand.
request for this meeting was based only on our understanding that Cindy had conveyed an intent to exercise the option to cover the cost of the defense, and that's where we got the decision.
Yeah, no, there was no, we're gonna hire an attorney for this individual.
but the concern is there was a representation that there would be an attorney provided.
I think there was just clarification that that could happen on behalf of the county as he's an employee. There was no intent or we didn't feel that he broke any laws. I'll put it that way.
And I'm just
I'm
going
sorry,
to
I
say
didn't
that
hear you.
the conversation was really between Joe came in very upset, talked to Tom. I was eavesdropping. I was sitting in my station or, at my chair. I did jump in the conversation. I did, tell him he could go talk to Blair. We do have attorneys. He could go talk to Blair to, our risk manager, possibly talk to HR. But I guess I just feel like I did convey the message that we need to support our employees because, Rebecca, if we're not going to support our employees, why would I want to be part of a team where I'm going to throw an attorney under the bus, say we only represent the county and not the employee? And I get this as a criminal matter, but I don't care. They're people. There are employees, and if we're not going to stand by them, and if you've got somebody in your office that's saying, "Well, go get your own attorney," and Joe is visibly upset. I get visibly upset about this. I am upset because I don't think that you should have gone through HR. If you're going to tell an employee that they need to get their own help, I guess, or our risk manager, but for your office to relay that message to one of our employees who is threatening to quit with this whole team. I guess I did jump in a conversation I should not have, but even more serious, I believe there was a serial meeting after the fact, wanting to know between the commissioners. There was a call from your office calling the commissioners, wanting to know what happened. Again, that would be a serial meeting. That would be another violation of a meeting that you just put me in that I shouldn't have been in. So if you want to fine me for something, but I'm not going to back down. I did try to support an employee. So if that is wrong, charge me with Open Public Meetings Act. I'm
So,
sorry.
Cindy, I don't think you're quite understanding what a serial meeting is. Um, Somebody following up and asking, okay, we're trying to figure out what actually happened here, is different from going from an individual to an individual and asking them to decide the same thing. So somebody following up and trying to figure out what occurred. Now, if they had um, done something slightly different. So let me back up. So that is different than a serial meeting where somebody is asking the same thing from the multiple commissioners. Now, it's my understanding that Barb asked, again, Barb would be able to speak to this better, but it was my understanding that Barb asked Rob what happened, and he said he didn't know.
That's correct.
Um,
Or on the call, he says he's lost service.
Did you hear that, Rebecca?
no, huh?
Commissioner Jones is no longer on the call. He lost service, and I said that was an accurate representation of my conversation with Commissioner Jones.
So to follow up on your statements regarding our office telling Joe that we would recommend him getting his own separate attorney if he felt like he needed one. That was an accurate representation of the law. And so again, I don't know how that would we are the legal advisors for the county. And so, yeah, that was an accurate representation of the law.
And I just want to be very clear, since I was the person who had the conversation with Joe, I did not convey that he needed his own attorney. I conveyed that if he wanted one to represent him for those aspects, that the county was not his attorney, I was not his attorney, and if he wanted one, that was an option that he had, and that's how he could pursue that. I didn't advise him he needed one. And in advising someone that they would need an attorney, that would be legal advice. And so I was very careful to indicate that that was just how he would need to pursue that if that's what he wanted.
So again, I can understand that the commissioners are frustrated, and Joe and Tom might be frustrated, but we cannot, our office cannot represent individual county employees. That it's just where the law is.
Rob is back on, just to let you know.
I don't need to hear them defend that anymore.
And Tom, I can't hear you.
Oh, I said, I don't need to hear you guys defend that anymore. I understand that. We've understood that. I thought this meeting was to address the OPMA issue, which I don't, although there was conversation, I don't know that anything was implied or a decision was made. So with that, I don't really have anything else to discuss.
My understanding was that Cindy was frustrated, and Rebecca and myself were addressing Cindy's concerns. So I'm sorry if you felt frustrated that you had to hear that, but you're in the room, and Cindy was frustrated, and she's also in the meeting, so. And regardless of what we think about whether or not a decision was made, I think from my understanding, again, not having been in the room, there's been an ample record made of what was discussed. Are we in agreement that that's all been put on the record?
Fair enough.
Okay, great. So it's now been iterated in a public meeting, whether or not it was in fact a decision.
And again, you may want to bring this up with Jen Homer. I talked with her, and you may want to just visit with her on this matter.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else that we need to discuss in this meeting?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Rob and Cindy, you good?
I'm
Yes.
ready to adjourn if everyone's ready.
Okay.
All right, it is 9:28 and we will adjourn this meeting.